Seattle. Back out. Jordan Morris. Jordan Morris. Jordan Morris. Yeah! Do you believe in Seattle?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 45 of Lobbing Scorchers. This is Ari Lillianwall. I got producer Noah here with me. And Noah, we got a dub pod today. How are you feeling?
We got a dub pod. However,
it was not a game that I expected to be a dub. I don't think anybody expected it to be a dub after FC Dallas went up 2-0. But the Seattle Sounders came back. 3-2 victors at Lumen Field last night. Like I mentioned, they erased a 2-0 deficit to score 3 goals between the 78th and the 94th minute. It was a barrage of late goals that first equalized and then gave Seattle a victory. Probably the biggest dub of the season, I would say, given the circumstances and where they're at on the table and the comeback nature of it. So, we're going to dive headlong into the dub pod, have some fun with that. And we're also going to do some U.S. men's national team punditry today. We're getting back into that game with the start of the Copa América. And the USMNT beat Bolivia today 2-0. Christian Pulisic and Fuller Balogun on the goals. So we'll dive into that, and we'll also hit your questions about the Seattle Sounders and some around the league stuff. Noah, does that sound good?
That sounds amazing. I'm so ready.
Before we get into all that, I wanted to let you know Lobbing Scorchers is now a part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. If you want to get the best independent Seattle soccer coverage, consider supporting us by going to sounderatheart.com/ls. That's sounderatheart.com/ls. All you have to do is scroll down to subscribe and support to get 30 days completely free. Every sign up through our link helps support and grow this show. So go hit up sounderatheart.com/ls and get some extra free content like the written version of the agenda check segment that we do on this podcast every week. I'm doing written content now. My debut piece just dropped this last week, and I thought it came out pretty well.
It was nice.
It was nice. It's fun to get back into a style of writing where I can editorialize like that a little bit, put my own voice in it. So I definitely had fun writing it, and hopefully all the Sounder at Heart readers enjoy reading it. And I'm going to keep churning those out. So go ahead and sub to Sounder at Heart right now. If you have not done so yet, subscribe to the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube. We're up to like 150. I think we hit 150.
We summited 150.
We summited 150. The next goal is 200. So if you have not done so yet, please help us grow our presence on YouTube. And then finally, I wanted to thank all of our paid subs. Rob Lincoln was our new sub. And we also got, I'm going to go through the entire list again.
Get them all.
We got Tom, Lachlan Galbraith, Samuel Fout, Nate Bowling, Joey Pasquinelli, Brennan Murphy, Pete Earls, Rhombus, Nate Bontier, Tyler Nakatsu, Owen Mason, David Rodriguez, Christopher Maley, Bill Breitenbach, Mike Lentini, Aaron B., Derek Richards, Sounder Naves, Dan Pavetto, Mike Standish, Ryan Shane, Eric Stanley, my nephews, CJ and Miles Marinakis, Andy Hill, Ian Mitchell, Greg Hoker. I know that list is getting pretty long, which is a good thing, but it's important to me that all the people who have supported us to this point know how much we love and appreciate them for that. Anyone else who hasn't yet, go subscribe to Sounder at Heart.
Go subscribe. We'll read your name off too.
We will. Let's dive into this dub pod. Does that sound good, Noah?
Let's do it.
So Seattle played FC Dallas last night, who have been one of the worst teams in MLS this year. They fired their coach a few weeks ago, and they hadn't won a road game going into this game all season. So it was definitely, we talked about it on the preview show. This was a game that Seattle had to win. Let's do our lineup reaction and talk about how Seattle came out set up, because it was a pretty interesting one. This was listed as a 4-2-3-1, and you can tell me if you agree, Noah, but to me, that looked more like a 3-5-2 with Nuhu as a third center back. And then you had Christian and Leo Chu out wide as kind of these hybrid fullbacks / wide midfielders. And then you had Rusnak pulling the strings, and, Moose was listed on the graphic as the right wing. I thought that was basically a dual striker setup with Jordan Morris and Moose. So that's how I interpreted the lineup. How did you interpret it?
Yeah, I agree. It felt very, I don't know how to say it, like fluid. It was movable. When it needed to be 4 in the back, it was 4 in the back. When it needed to be 3 in the back, it was 3 in the back. When it needed to be 5 in the back, it was 5 in the back. And that's what you want out of literally any formation, period. Yeah, I liked it. I don't know. It was cool. It was an interesting little wrinkle.
It was an interesting little wrinkle, but I had a bone to pick with it,
Yeah.
Noah, and it's a pretty major bone. And I'm serious. Why was Paul Rothrock not starting?
Well, he just played 180 minutes back to back.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, that's
fair.
about it.
I'm still gonna make a stink over that because
That's fair.
I feel like he earned it. But no, he'd been playing every minute of every game. So it's funny that we've reached a point in this season where Paul Rothrock is now getting rested. He's rotating out. Yeah, that's not necessarily something I would have expected before the start of the season, but that's where we are. And Paul Rothrock, as we all know, has very much earned that status.
And he got in the game anyway.
And he did get in the game, and we're going to talk about the impact he had on the game because I thought it was quite substantial once again. Seattle went down 2-0 in this game and got pretty lucky to not lose this game. They gave up 2 goals in the second half after a 0-0 first half. So let's talk about those goals real quick and maybe divvy up the blame. The first one, if I'm remembering correctly, was a giveaway by Jackson Reagan to Logan Farrington, who, he got the ball on the right side there, deep in Seattle territory. And he sends in a nice cross, and the goal scorer was unmarked right there. But, I kind of blame that one more on the turnover than that guy being open, because when you turn it over in that area of the field, that's not good. You're very likely, or not very likely, but you're pretty likely to give up a high percentage chance, and that's exactly what happened. And FC Dallas was up 1-0. And then they got the second one just a few minutes later. They had some nice interplay at the top of the area. And Petar Musa, their Croatian striker, he beat Nuhu and had a clean look right on Stefan Fry. It's another one that I do think Stefan Fry would probably tell you that he should have saved. Again, though, it was a situation where you have their DP striker with a pretty clean look on goal.
Coming off
there, he gets the shot off and coming off a Hattie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, you're asking to get bammed on.
Correct.
When you give their DP striker a shot like that, coming off a Hattie. So I got to tell you, Noah, at that point, I was ready to come on this show and start arguing for some pretty extreme beliefs.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how I was feeling because, that was it would have been the worst L of the season. It ended up being the biggest dub of the season, but it would have been the worst L in the season, considering, like I said, where they're at on the table, how badly they need to stack these 3-point results, and also just the state of FC Dallas. FC Dallas fired their coach a few weeks ago, one of the worst teams in the league all year, and they also never take results in Seattle. They've been beaten in the playoffs by Seattle, in Seattle a few times. They hadn't won a game on the road all season. You couldn't lose to this team, and Seattle was right on the precipice of doing that, down 2-0 in the second half here. But then it got pretty fun, Noah.
It did.
They came back. So let's break down this comeback right here. It started out in the 77th minute from Raúl Ruidíaz, who scored a great header from inside the box. Noah, Raúl Ruidíaz has scored a goal, an MLS goal from inside the penalty box off a really nice dime once again from Albert Rusnak. We're going to talk about him quite a lot on this show later. But just it's a really good connection on that play. Rusnak sends in a pinpoint ball. Ruidíaz goes up to get the header. I don't know how many headed goals he has in MLS. He's like 5'6".
Yeah.
So he's not typically going to get that many, but he got up for that and he placed it perfectly. A lot of people, including some people on this show, I'm not going to mention any names, but have had some takes about Raúl Ruidíaz, and it was funny. He scored that goal, and he did the pulling the name on the back of the jersey thing. I don't know if that was directed towards Schmetz or at us or just at people in general, but it was kind of like Raúl saying, "Don't forget who I am. I've scored the most goals in the history of this club. I've scored." Goals in MLS Cups here and won MLS Cups here. I've won CONCACAF Champions League. I'm still a bad dude. So whether you believe in that or not, that's kind of how I interpreted that Selly.
He did rob Jordan of a hat trick, though. He got up in front of Jordan, so little upset at him for that. Just kidding. No, listen, I don't think I've ever seen him get that much vert. That was pure spite put into that vertical right there. Like, he got up, he got that ball in the back of the net, and I felt it. I have to give this little anecdote because it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Went to the game with my lovely girlfriend Liv and one of our friends, and I turned to him at halftime and I said, I bet you $10 that they're going to sub Raúl in around half and he's not going to score. And he's like, I'll take that bet. And I got bammed on, man. I got so bammed on.
Pull up the Venmo, brother.
Yep.
Yeah. Great goal from Ruidíaz. And Seattle had life at that point. And I actually, I don't know about you, but I felt pretty confident that they were going to level it just based on how the game had been going up until that goal. And really, like, it was definitely a game where it wouldn't have made a difference if they had lost it, but it was definitely a game where one team was outplaying the other and the other was scoring against the run of play. So once they pulled the first goal back, I figured if they maintain this game state, they're going to keep they're at least going to have some good chances at tying this thing up. I definitely didn't think they would win. I thought like a 2-2 was what they were gunning for at that point.
Yeah.
But then they tied it. Jordan Morris off a corner kick from Albert Rusnak.
Wait, they scored off a corner, Ari?
They scored. The Seattle Sounders have scored off a corner kick for the first time all season. I believe they still lead the league in corner kicks taken, and they hadn't scored one yet before this one, which was not that good a bit.
No.
I'm glad that streak is over. It was pretty frustrating watching them win corner after corner after corner and not get particularly close to converting any of them. So I think that was a big goal, both in terms of the game, but also just the psychological weight of having scored on a corner kick now. And they also got a set piece goal against Houston off on the Jackson Reagan goal. Jordan Morris had another headed goal off a set piece from Rusnak. So the set pieces are kind of cooking lately, certainly much more so than they have earlier this season. But that's just that's a great header from Jordan. I was reading Matt Doyle's Matchday 22 breakdown right before this, and he mentioned something to the effect of he doesn't think he's ever seen Jordan score a goal quite like that. He scored headers before, but I mean, the technique on that and the placement, that was very clinical. Great delivery, just a perfectly executed set piece to tie the game. And after he scored that, I thought there was an off chance that they might win the game just because Seattle was all over them at that point. But it felt like too much to ask, for how things have gone this season. I can't say that I truly believed in my heart of hearts that Seattle was going to win that game, even after Jordan equalized and even after how well they had been playing during that stretch of the game. But they won the game, Noah. That's why it's a dub pod. Jordan Morris wins it with a breakaway finish in the 94th minute off one of the dimes of the season from Obed Vargas. Unbelievable pass by the homegrown. Threaded that right through there for Jordan to run onto.
Let's not forget, this was probably 4 or 5 minutes after he looked like he exploded his hamstring.
Yeah, that's true. It looked like he was having trouble moving around after that. Gets back up and gets just a great assist. 4 assists now this year for Obed Vargas. And we'll talk about him in the agenda check. But I mean, once again, just making an tangible impact of the game. I mean, that play by Obed and the finish by Jordan, that's the difference between a win and a draw right there. So the Obed agenda stays through the roof, and Seattle takes the 3-2 victory. So they're now on 25 points and still in 10th place in the West. But I mean, if you look at the West table, it's basically a logjam from 5 to 10. Anyone who is down in the 7, 8, 9, 10 range, a couple of wins will put them up in the 4, 5, 6 range. So Seattle's right there as far as the playoff race is concerned. They are not technically above the line right now, but still all to play for the rest of the season. Noah, before we get to the agenda check, did you have any other thoughts or takeaways from this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Paul Rothrock coming in made an instant impact, and not in the necessarily like not in the way of him physically touching the ball, but I think pulling Chu off and also bringing on RBW with him created such a dynamic change that FC Dallas had to shift their positioning. They had to shift their formation to account for that. And that's really, truly what opened the game up and allowed the Sounders to be competitive and win this match.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout, and that's actually a good segue to the agenda check because we're going to do some Paul Rothrock takes here, as per usual, as has become custom on Lobbing Scorchers. I have a few written down here, Noah. Let's see. I think I have 6 written down, so we'll try not to go too long on this, but there's a lot of agendas this week. First one I got, the Albert Rusnak is terrible agenda. Diminished.
It's gone. 4
assists in the last 3 games and 9 for the season. Like, I think the funny thing is that he's actually having a pretty good year.
Yeah.
Like, if the underlying numbers might not be great. Someone posted them the other day, and they definitely, he didn't look like Hani Mukhtar or anything. But when I think of the type of just pure output that you need from a number 10, well, first of all, I look at assists much more than goals, and Rusnak has 7 primary assists this season. Only 2 of them are secondary. He's really been cooking in these last 3 games. 4 of those assists have come in the last 3 games. So he's hot right now. But with the output that I think of ideally from a starting number 10 in MLS, like 15 plus, if you can get there. Albert Rusnak's career high is 14 that he set with Real Salt Lake. He is on pace to at least match that and potentially surpass that. And it's funny because if he ends up with, say, 15 to 18 assists, I think all of a sudden you're talking about a legitimate debate as to whether he's actually is worth the DP spot or if he should still be a TAM or if he should be a TAM player like we were talking about, which is funny because I think the conventional wisdom has become that he's not performing at a DP caliber level, and I do think there's an argument to be made for that, but it's at least a debate now. I mean, he's playing really well. He's getting on the stat sheet. He's impacting games. So I am still sympathetic to the notion that he might not be the best use of a DP spot, but it's something worth talking about at least, which I don't think that was necessarily the case in the last few weeks to most people's minds.
Yeah, I'm super sympathetic to the DP argument, mostly because his literal physical contract is only a couple $1,000s above the threshold to make him a DP. So when you look at the numbers in the terms of like value for your DP spot, it really doesn't make any sense that he's a DP, but that doesn't mean he's a bad player. And I think we've both said like he's going to have to play to show that he's worth a DP, but even more than that, he's just got to show that he's worth playing the 10 in general, because that's an important spot and he's filling a large role. He's filling a role that we could probably go out and find someone to fill for a real DP spot. Yeah,
the question is, can and should you build an MLS attack around this guy?
Right.
And there's been very valid questions brought up about that by us included, about that this season. But I mean, if you're just looking at his form in the last few weeks, he does look like a DP number 10 to me. I'm not saying necessarily
he's 8th
means
most
that
assists in the league right now.
Yeah, I think 7th or 8th.
He's
yeah.
8th. He's 8th
okay.
behind Jared Stroud, Denny Bwanga.
Jared Stroud,
who both have 7 assists. So they're tied for, I guess, I don't know, however you want to divvy it up.
And I guess back to the original point of like, there is a very prominent and outspoken vocal minority anti-Rusnak. Rusnak is actively bad contingent. And I don't know, like the notion that he's this like terrible player. I just don't agree. Like I said, there's a lot of interesting questions to talk about regarding his status on the roster, as a DP, or if it should be TAM, but he's definitely playing well these last few weeks. Obed Vargas, agenda strengthened.
Yeah, easily.
Notably strengthened. God, that pass was so good.
His whole game was so good, man.
His whole game the last 2 months has been so good.
Yeah. Last match, his Houston match was really bad, but
it was not his best. It was not his best, but he was back cooking this game, and that is a big time assist. And we've talked about it a lot, but the thing that you want to see from these academy products as they break into the first team is making those impact plays, changing results of games. Obed is doing all that stuff. They don't win that Philly game unless he is playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
And he scored a great goal in that game. Like I said, up to 4 assists. And I don't know how many 18-year-olds can hit that pass that he hit to Jordan. That was pass of the week, in my opinion.
That was insane. That's like some FIFA shit. Like that was just like...
That's why when you hit Y on FIFA.
Yeah, literally. Like it was like a magnet, dude. Like I sat there, I watched it in real time, and I literally had the best possible perspective. I was sitting kind of mid-line in the stadium. I see him win the ball in his chest. I was like, oh, he sees this pass. He sees this pass. Chest it down one time. I'm like, oh my God. We are in the presence of a baller.
Yeah. And on the other side of it, it's been good to see Jordan making those runs and getting the service on those runs. You know, we saw in the St. Louis game, Russ nagging him on one of those. It just feels like he's been making those kind of Jordan Morris type runs, and that was a vintage Jordan Morris goal. The header was one that was not a vintage Jordan Morris goal. That's one that you don't typically see him hit. The game winner was if you made a Jordan Morris goal in a lab of the type of run that he likes to make and what he can do when he gets out and running. I mean, that would be it right there. And Jordan Morris he's blazing hot right now. That what's that, 5 and 6?
Yeah.
And up to 7 for the season. But he's honestly, he's carrying the team right now in a lot of ways. I mean, we've talked a lot about this season, how goal-starved this team is and how, Jordan Morris and Raúl Ruidíaz were tasked with fixing that. And Jordan is carrying a huge load right now. And, you have to give Ruidíaz credit for his goal in this game, too. Paul Rothrock agenda.
Yes.
Strengthened. And like you said, Noah, it's like he didn't get on the score sheet, but the energy that he brought.
He should have been on the score sheet.
And yeah, he got pretty close.
He was robbed. That was a handball, Ari.
I think it might have been. I didn't really see a great replay of it, but nonetheless, it was still a really good sequence of attacking play executed by Ruidíaz and Paul Rothrock. And if the guy doesn't block it, I don't know if it went off his hand or not, but that would have at least been on target, which, that's one of the great things about Paul Rothrock that I just love about the guy is when he shoots the ball, oftentimes it goes on target, and sometimes it goes in the goal. So it was good to see him make a play, but this was not about like the stat sheet. Okay. I don't think it's a coincidence, first of all, that this comeback basically all happened with Paul Rothrock on the field. But he also, did you see him pumping the crowd up again?
Yeah.
And that was when they were down 2-0.
Yeah.
And he was still bringing that energy. So just because he didn't score in this game, the agenda did not take a hit. And if anything, I think it's as strong as ever. It did not skyrocket as much as it did last week, but it's strengthened without a doubt.
Oh, easily. I think, one of the big things that he also brings is his talent to kind of like adjust to who he's playing with and his movement off the ball to allow people like Raúl and Jordan to be in that space, but also like be selfish when he needs to be. I think of that goal that he got in Houston where he's like, sorry, Jordan, love you, King, but I'm just going to blow right past you and score this goal. I thought he did great to like open up space and pull defenders off Raúl and Jordan both and really just like give them a headache. He's a true winger. He is a true winger. And for all of the great things that Leo Chu does bring, Paul, I'm going to just say it, has shown that he can make a bigger impact on the game.
He's outplayed him.
Yeah.
For sure. Let's dare to dream for a second about a world where Pedro de la Vega is healthy and playing. Just as a thought exercise, I'm not saying that it's especially likely to happen, but assuming that you do have Pedro de la Vega to put in the lineup, I think you're starting De La Vega over Paul Rothrock, but with Paul Rothrock as your first attacking super sub with that lineup, I kind of love that because like the impact he made as a sub in this game was huge, and he played really well starting the previous game, but his skill set and the energy that he brings could be tailored pretty well to that super sub role. And I think you saw like the potential of him in that role in this game. And in a world where Seattle did have a full strength lineup, I love Paul Rothrock as a potential super sub.
Well, and the great part about him too is you could technically plug him in as a wing back too, right? So if you play with that 5 in the back style again, he's going to get back for you. He's going to get back. He's going to do the defensive effort. I don't know. I don't know, man.
And I mean, I think you're right that the reason he didn't start this game was minutes management.
Yeah.
Because he had been playing so much lately. But when all things being equal, I think this guy, I'm serious. I think this guy has to start right now. Like, I think he's got to. And then when you get De La Vega back, then you can talk about how to line it up or whether he should be a sub or not. But I think right now you ride this hot hand without a doubt. Let's move on to the Moose agenda. Diminished, I think. He got the start in this game, like I said, as what I thought was sort of a second striker with Jordan. And I don't think he missed any sitters, but for the Moose agenda to be strengthened, he's got to score or at least get close to scoring. Like, honestly, his agenda might have gotten strengthened a little bit if he had missed a sitter, just because you want him having those opportunities. Yeah. But he didn't get on the score sheet in this game. And for a backup striker agenda, like, that's what you have to be doing to strengthen your agenda.
It's so tough, right? Like, he is really gunning for the A-Bear XG Merchant of the Year
parallels
award.
are uncanny.
Like, it's tough. It's like death taxes and a backup 9 that I just don't even understand how he's that bad. Like, respectfully, I mean, like, something happens when you become the backup 9 for the Sounders that I don't know. It should be tested in a lab because he's not a bad player. Like,
it's been an admittedly small sample size, but he's been productive in MLS, and it is a lot like A-Bear, which is definitely unfortunate. Leo Chu, let's do the Leo Chu agenda. I was a Leo Chu apologist last week. I tried to give him credit for the great assist that he had, and just in general, I feel like he takes a little too much heat sometimes. He's had really good individual moments and really good individual games. There's games that they've won in large part because of Leo Chu, so I think it's fair to point that out as it pertains to my take. He had that 4-assist game last year. He had the Whitecaps game where he scored the brace, and they won that game because of him. So there have been good Leo Chu moments. I did not think this game was one of them. It's still kind of the same thing of when he's taking on a defender 1v1. His decision-making and execution is just not there consistently at all. And in this game, I don't think he eliminated or beat any defenders. And then, I mean, the thing that killed me was the substitution thing where they're bringing on Paul Rothrock for Leo Chu. Leo Chu seems like he's not happy about getting subbed out, so he takes his sweet time getting off the field, right? And just, he looked pissed. But then the new rule is that if you take too long removing yourself from the field, then the player who's subbing on for you has to wait 2 minutes to come onto the field. So Seattle ended up playing down a man for 2 minutes,
which led to
a chance, right?
It led to a chance, and basically right when Paul Rothrock was able to step on the field and had to sprint over to his position, they scored.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. So the Leo Chu agenda, unfortunately, is diminished. I have to say that even after the credit that I gave him last week, but he didn't have a good game in this one. And then the sub thing was a debacle, and that just shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that this team just isn't right for Leo Chu's skill set, or like that he's just not the prospect that people thought he was going to be. he's just not been good this season. Like, I don't think that he's been...
He was hurt for some of it.
Yeah, he's been hurt. Sure, I'll give him that. But I don't think that he has been a U22 signing. What is he making? Like $1 million a year? Like, you have Paul Rothrock outperforming you. And he gets a bagged lunch for his salary. Like, respectfully, like, I think that there's I don't know, maybe it's the attitude, maybe it's not. This is all I feel like I'm an ESPN commentator now. It's his attitude. But like, seriously, you have a guy like Paul Rothrock who's going out there who literally has like nothing to lose. Like he has to work his ass off to get in those games. Leo Chu is in a position where, yeah, he's been injured, but like, it's assumed that if you want this team to do well, you play your high value players, and that's Leo Chu. Why is someone who is paid less and is working harder than you starting over you? Like, I don't know. And then with all the transfer rumors, it's just, I don't know. My head is in a spin about this one, but it's definitely diminished. It's not looking good right now, Ari, for Leo Chu.
Let's move on to your JP is cooked agenda. I thought it was another tough week for that agenda. I
might be cooked.
I thought JP was great in this game, and I thought he was especially good early in the match. He almost scored 2 goals. He kind of had like a miniature version of the Beast Quake goal where he shredded through a few defenders and almost finished it to the far post, hit it just wide, and then he almost scored a really sick goal from way outside the penalty box that went off the post. He almost scored twice, which was nice, but I don't know. To me, the last 2 weeks, he looks notably back to the type of player that he was pre-ACL. And I said it on the show last week, but if he gets back to that type of form, that would be huge for this team, because we all know what the peak version of JP looks like, and it's one of the best two-way players in the league. So if you add one of the best two-way players in the league to the mix, and God willing, at some point get De La Vega healthy, it could mean positive things. But he has to sustain it over a larger sample size, and De La Vega needs to get on the field. But those things are possible, and I think based on what we've seen from JP the last couple weeks, his arrow is pointing up, agenda strengthened.
Yeah, man. I am happy to admit defeat with this one. He has, honestly, it's ever since I watched one of the like post-match, I guess, or it was one of the training interviews with him, and he took full acceptance and said, like, this has been my worst season I've ever played in my life. And literally, I am not kidding, from that moment on, from him acknowledging that, it has turned around and he has been one of the best players on the field. I think that if you take away the goals and you're just going on pure performance for this game, I think he wins man of the match. Like, for impact on the game. Dude, he had 90% passing on 100 passes. That's insane. That is the important connecting play that you need. He gave up a little bit of a howler it was a bad pass from Reagan. He could have done a little bit more to clean it up that led to that goal. But other than that, man, like, he's been back. He's been back. Agenda is boiling.
Yeah, JP is cooking. Let's dive into questions, if that sounds good, Noah.
I would love to.
Thank you, as always, to everyone who submits for these. Got a lot of replies to the crowdsourcing tweet this week. It was popping in there, and I appreciate everyone who gets the discourse flowing. I know that we can't get to every single question every week, but do not let that dissuade you ever from blowing up my mentions. It's much appreciated. Let's dive into it, Noah.
Let's do it. Thank you all for your questions. As always, lob them in Ari's mentions. You can follow him on Twitter. Link is in the description of this show. We're starting off with T.O. from the 360. Credit where it's due. The Fire Schmetzer agenda is in shambles. The team just showed that they haven't given up on him and each other. Impressive amount of grit I don't think the 2024 Sounders were capable of. Did this game do anything to quell the Schmetzer hot seat, Ari?
I don't know if it's this game in particular. I mean, they almost lost this game, but I just think if you look at where they are on the whole, I know it feels like they've been really, really bad because we're used to the Sounders being one of the best teams in the league. But I think realistically, they've been more mid than bad. And I don't know if being mid is enough to instigate a coaching change for a coach who, is a club legend and has, more importantly, won as much as he has. I've said this a lot, but you earn equity through the amount of winning that Schmetz has done and for the amount of trophies that he's put in the trophy case. Now, that doesn't mean things can't run their course eventually, but I think things would have to be a lot worse than they even have been for that to happen. That's what I've been saying, and that's still how I see it.
Yeah, and I also want to know, too, on the grit side, how have you seen the Sounders change in the last few weeks in terms of body language? That's something that Schmetzer brought up specifically, but that ability to overcome a 2-0 deficit that I really don't think this team felt like it could do at the beginning of the season.
It feels like the Sounders of old. This is the type of stuff that Schmetz always hammers it home, like Sounders don't quit, and it sounds like a cliche, but what he means is that it's been a long time, dating back to the NASL, USL days. It's been sort of a hallmark and a defining factor of the club that, when you go down, you fight your way back, and it doesn't even matter what the deficit is. And there's been a lot of examples of that over the year. Remember the DC United one where they were down 3-0 and they won 4-3. That was an even crazier comeback than this one. That grit that you're talking about, the determination to fight back and to pull off that comeback, it did feel like the Sounders of old, and it did not feel like something that they would have been able to do even a few weeks ago. So I definitely think, they're going to have to build on it moving forward, but I definitely think it was a positive sign for them to pull one like this off.
I saw a Frank McDonald tweet, one of my favorite follows on Twitter, that he said, there has not been in the 50 years that the Sounders have existed a 2-match run where they overcame a 2-0 deficit to get a result. So that's a big deal. And this team does feel like it is. Maybe it's not rejuvenated fully, but it feels like a gear is turning, things are working, and that they surely don't think that the season is over. We will hit this next one from Sebastian, who I saw this question a ton, actually. Observation. Prior to our first goal, I saw Jordan and Raúl going at it. Not in a normal way, looked ugly from my vantage point. Did you see that? Thoughts? Raúl also left early down the tunnel and generally looked pissed.
Yeah, so I saw a lot of people talking about this. I haven't seen the clip myself, but it sounded like Jordan and Raúl exchanged some words. I think it was due to maybe Jordan not pressuring a goalkeeper, running at him to make him kick it sooner. It was something like that. I don't know if that's exactly what it was. But I think, it's kind of hard to know what to read into in situations like that, because disagreements on the field and within the locker room and between teammates, they happen all the time. It's not particularly uncommon in pro sports. So without knowing that much about it, I'm not going to say there was any drama or discord there. But it is a little bit interesting.
It's two leaders on the team. It's it feels weird to see them arguing, but also if you've played sports, if you've played soccer,
it's competitive.
There's plenty of players that I played with where I hated playing with them on the field, but I loved them as people. Sometimes you just get into it on the field, and that's just how it is. You're at a high level. You got your adrenaline going. That's sometimes how it goes, and sometimes you're just frustrated. And I don't think that Raúl is not the type of person to hold a grudge like that. He is a very supportive teammate from what it looks like. I don't think there's any reason to read into it unless he actively comes out and says something or doesn't want to play. I don't know. That's what I see. Yeah. I don't know if you see anything different.
No, I agree.
This one comes from Tropic Sound. 3-5-2 me until the end of time. Ari, how well do you think the 3-5-2 played, and what are the arguments against keeping the same formation for the rest of the season?
I thought it played well, didn't you?
Yeah.
I thought that even the 0-0 in the first half, I thought the chance generation and just the flow of the offense and the attacking sequences and stuff were about as good as they've been for most of this season. So they might be onto something with it. But I do think that the trusty 4-2-3-1 will be back. I think this was kind of lined up this way a little bit out of necessity, but I did think it went pretty well.
Yeah, I think it went well. I don't expect Schmetzer to keep it all season, but I also think it's nice to know that you have another tactical formation in your holster, because the reality is, and whether people like to believe it or not, you do have to adjust based on your opponent and how they play. And so now that they know this works against a team like Dallas and they know what they can get out of it, that's great. That's great for the pocket. Keep it in there. It'll be fun to see it again, hopefully. This one comes from DSC Smurf. Jordan is going to get a lot of praise for the 2-goal game, but that pass from Obed to win it was sublime. Next level. Ari, what a bounce back game from Obed. Is this the JP boost?
Ooh, I hadn't really thought of it in those terms, but I think that's a good point. I think the double pivot I'm down with the double pivot of JP Obed or JP Atencio. I do think Obed this season is he's shown more of a propensity for making impact plays than Atencio has. Atencio's had an okay year. He's been solid to an occasionally above average MLS starter, I would say. Is that fair? But Obed is breaking out and looking very dynamic, getting on the stat sheet. That, like you said, that assist was incredible. So I am a fan of the Obed JP double pivot.
I love it. I love Obed with JP. I think that it gives him the stability he needs to be creative. We've said it before. I'll say it again. He can be a superstar next to a player like that. And whether we keep Obed or not, man, think of all the clips he's getting. Yeah. His value is just going up and up and up and up, and value for like the club as well. I mean, now he's literally making game-winning passes. I gotta say,
scoring bangers, game-winning assists.
We said, have they arrived? You got to make chances like that. I feel like we can officially say that Obed has arrived. Do you think that's fair, or are you not ready yet?
I think so. I've seen about what I need to see. I guess you could say that he needs to do it over a bit of a longer sample, but it's been a pretty decent sample now.
Yeah, no, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. It's heating up then. I feel like we're not ready to fully commit. This one comes from Nathan Hull. The subs were perfect today. Raúl just being dangerous and seeing what can happen. Rothrock and RBW tilted the field on the left side. Dallas turtling and going 5-man backline created some confusion. The whole rest of the game, Dallas was stellar. This is from me. How well did Brian and the staff do to tilt the game back when they were 2-0 down, making those subs?
Schmetz has kind of been cooking with the subs the last couple of weeks. I thought he did so again in this game. Once again, I thought he did it early enough to allow the subs to actually make an impact. If you're going to run Ruidíaz as a super sub, I think bringing him on around 60, so he has that 30 minutes to leave his imprint on the game, is the way to do it. We talked about the impact that Rothrock made, and RBW is a good shout as well. But it completely changed the game, and I thought the subs were a huge part of why that comeback happened. That didn't really happen until the subs.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I feel like a theme this season has been taking accountability and growing off of that. I've seen a really big shift in the attention to substitutions from Brian and the staff. Maybe they just took a long, hard look at it after that RBW red card, because I know the media was really on him. They were heating him up about that. Fans were as well. And he came out and said, maybe I need to think more about that. Maybe I don't. The classic Brian Schmetzer, I don't know, I'll look at it. But I have to say, there's not a lot of coaches in this league who would go from that, address them. I'm making this up in my head canon, but address that, move forward, and have a 2-3 game span of having game tilting substitutions. So that's, who knows? This one comes from Quinn. Do you think Chu should play any more minutes? Seems like he's more concerned about dribbling into low percentage chances and throwing tantrums. And then Tom Glantz also asks, Chu's attempted embellishment and delay getting off the pitch needs to be addressed. Hope we can get a good return for him in the summer. And man, we still need a big pickup this summer. Is the clock ticking on Leo Chu, Ari?
Yeah, I mean, it might be regardless of what happened in this last game, just because, like we talked about last week, it seems like there's genuine interest coming from Brazil on making a deal for him. And it seems like that's what he wants. So I think, without knowing anything about the specifics, ins and outs of it, it sounds decently likely to me that they are going to sell Leo Chu to a Brazilian club, which I think might be for the best.
Yeah, 100%. I think he wants to go back. I just don't think that I feel like this system just isn't right for him and his skill set, and he needs a place where he can develop better. End all, period. Thank you all for your questions. We love you. Keep them bombing in Ari's mentions. I do want to throw out there, midweek episode, Ari, who do we have on?
We got a big-time guest, folks, coming on. We got my friend Tom Bogert from The Athletic. Tommy Scoops himself has agreed to come on. I'm excited for that one. He's the best in the game as far as these transfer rumors and the scoops go. And I wanted to ask him a little bit about Seattle as well from a national perspective, but I think we're mostly going to be talking transfers and kind of broader MLS stuff, and it's going to be fun. You all know who Tommy Scoops is. So.
Yeah. If you have questions for him, you can lob them in the Sounder at Heart Discord. If you don't know how to join that, you can check out sounderatheart.com/LS. You sign up. If you're on the level where you get access to the Discord, you can go in the forums, find the post, lob your Scorcher. We also, we get a little money when you sign up. So
let's dive into some Copa America takes and then some around the league, and then we can get out of here. Does that sound good, Noah?
Let's do it.
Okay. For the Copa, I was going to just do takes on the USMNT and Canada. I haven't covered both of those games for MLSsoccer.com, and I've been watching a lot of the Copa and the Euros, but we'll do the US to lead it off here. So the US played just before we started recording this show, and we beat Bolivia 2-0. Goals from Christian Pulisic and Fuller and Balogun. So we were playing Bolivia, which is not a particularly strong team. But, when you're playing an inferior opponent, it's your job to take a comprehensive victory. So mission accomplished in that sense. And really, I don't know how much of the game you saw, Noah, but it really should have been more like 5 or 6-0.
Yeah,
we controlled the game the whole time. We were racking up chances at a very fast clip, and I think got a little unlucky. There was another goal that Balogun scored that got called offside, where it was one of those ones where it's like 2 millimeters offside.
Yeah.
So could have scored more goals. In general, pretty dominant. So doesn't really mean all that much, but credit to the Yanks for taking a dub, but also taking the type of sometimes this team plays down to their opposition and they get in these games that are super intense and competitive when they really shouldn't be based on what you would think the talent levels are. So I was glad to see them just take it to another team and win fairly convincingly. Pulisic's goal was really, really sick. That was one of his nicer goals for the U.S.
Yeah, that was nasty.
And it was good. I don't think Balogun honestly had all that good a game, but he did have a nice finish on his goal, and it was just good to see him score one because really, this is a big tournament for Balogun. I've been someone who's been gassing him up quite a lot and, talking all kinds of mess about how this is the number 9 that's going to deliver us to World Cup glory and all that.
He made you see God.
Yeah, exactly. If you remember Lobbing Scorchers episode 5, I found religion because of Balogun in Nations League last year. So, he's got to show out in this tournament, and he's got to show that he is that type of number 9, which I think he still could be, but it's a tournament like this where he has a chance to really show that. I watched Canada-Argentina as well. Did you watch that one?
I didn't. I just watched some highlights of that one.
Oh, okay. Well, so Canada actually hung with it pretty well. They only lost 2-0, and they were down 1-0 in the 88th minute, and they just couldn't score. And then Messi had a really nice assist on the last goal they scored right before second half stoppage time. So, but I was decently encouraged, I guess, by the start of the Jesse Marsch era, or I would be encouraged if I was Canadian, which I'm not. But there was some takes that were flying around about this that were a little too hot. I saw someone saying, I've never seen a Berhalter coached U.S. team play as well as Canada did against Argentina. They lost 2-0, and really, they could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
So I think maybe slow your roll on that one. But
the one thing I know about that game is that Crépeau played out of his mind.
Yeah, no, good shout. Really, it would have been a lot worse than 2-0 if not for some insane goalkeeping from Maxime Crépeau of the Portland Timbers. So that was good for Canada. But overall, honestly, I don't know. They weren't all that close to taking a result in this game, which Argentina is the best team in the world. They won the last World Cup, so I wouldn't necessarily expect them to be. So I'll be watching our Canadian friends to see, because I'm very curious about this Jesse Marsch thing. He was a guy a lot of people wanted for the U.S. job. I think he's a pretty good coach, so I'm excited to see what he does with that.
Listen, the podcast to head coach pipeline it's heating up, folks. If you're a TV pundit, you can move straight to national team head coach. It's happening, Ari. We're well on our way with the Jesse Marsch hire. I do want to note back one thing on the USA Bolivia game. That Bolivian goalkeeper is nasty, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't know who he was, but I was looking him up. He's played in Bolivia his entire life, 31 years old, but I feel like he should get a look from someone who needs like a good goalkeeper.
No, seriously,
he was nasty.
He was, and he was the only reason that we didn't hang 4 or 5 goals on him.
Yeah.
Let's jump around the league real quick. We'll do winners and losers. Before we jump into that, there was a couple of Atlanta United related headlines that I don't think we got to on the last show. Georgios Giacomakis transferred to Cruz Azul officially. They got a bag for him. I think it was around $10 million. So that's a good bit of business. Atlanta doesn't seem like they're doing a heck of a lot this year. They just fired their coach. And Giacomakis has been hurt a lot. He's a very good number 9, but he's been injured a lot for them.
It was a great deal.
And that was a really nice bit of business. And then there was also a rumor that apparently Eagle Football Group made a $20 million bid for Thiago Almada. Did you have the specifics on that, or what's going on there?
It's a bid. It's coming from The Athletic. That's where I saw it, at least. So you never know. But Eagle Football Group owns Lyon and another Premier League club, as well as Botafogo, which is famously JP's club, correct? So I think this is the first real offer that Atlanta United have fielded from Thiago Almada. We'll see what happens, but if they are blowing it up, like it seems like Garth is doing, that might be kind of a banger. That might be a great deal.
The thing is, I'm pretty sure that's quite a bit less than what they paid for him.
I thought it was like 17 or something, but I don't know.
Let's look this up real quick, because I don't know if they would want to take a loss on that. But the thing is, 20 million might be like fair for what Almada is worth at this point.
Yeah. No, I mean, it might be. It's hard to tell with a player like that. And has he broken out? I don't know. And that does seem a little bit under.
I would say it's fair to say that he broke out. Okay, you're right. It's $16 million. So
but still, that's not crazy. Unless they're getting a sell-on fee.
That's enough, though, where they should take it.
Yeah. And if they get a sell-on fee, they get a percentage. That's even better.
I think mainly it'll just be interesting to see what Atlanta United is doing in the post-Gonzo Pineda era. Like, are they really going to fully blow it up? Or,
I don't know.
Are they going to... They're not, like, completely out of the playoff race this year. All you have to do is get hot, and they could get in. So,
do they think Dax McCarty can do it?
I mean, apparently. Let's do winners and losers real quick, and then we'll call it a day for episode 45. Winners section. Seattle Sounders. I'm putting them in this week.
We did it.
Best comeback of the week and a badly needed victory. And really just the nature of that comeback. I know it's FC Dallas and they shouldn't have been in a situation where they needed to come back like that, but it was an exciting game, and watching them score 3 goals in like 15 minutes, that's something that really hasn't happened much this year. So I'm going to give them some shine for the week for getting an exciting and important dub.
X-Dog off the charts.
X-Dog really was in this game. Charlotte FC beat the Philly Union, which we're going to talk about them again in the loser section. But they have a fun young striker who I've been enjoying watching. Patrick Agyemang. He's like a super draft pick, and he is playing over one of their DP, or he was playing over one of their DP strikers that wasn't producing, and they just let him cook. And he's having a pretty good year for them. He's got like 5 or 6 goals or something. He's been making the most of his opportunity. And Charlotte are not that bad. They are in like 3rd or 4th in the East or something. So Dean Smith, their new head coach, seems like he's doing a pretty good job. And I think you have to give him credit for trusting a young super draft pick to be a starting striker, and he's getting rewarded for that. And then I got the New England Revolution. They beat FC Cincinnati on the road, and they've won 4 straight games. So after what was once a historically bad start for the Revs, they are definitely on the up. They're playing a lot more like the team that I think most of the pundits and the prognosticators thought they would be going into the year. So things are actually going pretty well for Caleb Porter right now. Loser section, I got DC United. They took a 4-1 home loss to the Houston Dynamo.
Tough.
And Benteke took like a really dumb red.
It was a dumb red card
in this game.
I think I texted you when that happened.
Yeah, he was just screaming at the ref in a way after he got a yellow card, which it's like preventable. You know, if you foul somebody like in the heat of it, sometimes like that's it's like a 50-50 situation, but like he got a yellow card and there was nothing else going on, and he just kept yelling at the ref.
He got a straight red for foul and abusive language. That's crazy.
Yeah. So, and DC United just in general not doing too hot. It was a good dub for Houston, and they had their DP Sebastian Ferreira score a hat trick, who has been kind of a bust for them. So that was good for them, but DC's kind of down bad for that. Sporting Kansas City, the club of professional wrestling enthusiasts, I'm sad to report, took a 4-0 L at the Columbus Crew. I mean, Sporting KC is one of the worst teams in the league this year, without a doubt, both in terms of record and the eye test. And that, you know, it frames Seattle's loss there in an even worse light. But even in that game, like, I felt like they're just like so easy to play through.
Yeah.
Like probably more than any team in the league when I watch them, when they're playing defense, it just seems like the other team is having just an easy ass time getting up and down the field and generating chances.
And they changed formations recently. So for this game, they were just all out of whack too. Like they changed from what they had been playing in the back, and they were just even easier to go through like butter. It's like, I know that he will never ever be fired unless he like. Actually, I don't even think he won't. It won't. He couldn't even commit a crime, and he could commit a crime and they wouldn't fire him. Like seriously, I don't understand what we're doing here, but you know, good for Sporting Kansas City job retention program.
Yeah. Philly Union, another home loss, 2-0 to Charlotte. I just don't know what is going on with this team. Like, I understand that they maybe weren't equipped to reach the heights of when they were one of the best teams in the league a couple years ago and put up a plus 40 some odd goal differential and nearly beat LAFC in MLS Cup. But they're winless in like 8 or something. They're below the playoff line. Noah, they're 1-6-3 at home.
That's awful. That's worse than the Sounders.
That's hard. It's way worse than the Sounders. The Sounders at least have they're 3-1-5, so that's too many draws, but they've at least won more than they've lost. 1-6-3 home record, that is legitimately hard to do in MLS. Like you basically, that's the record that you would have at home if you were actively trying to lose, like throwing games.
Or your
like,
San Jose Earthquakes.
Or you're the San Jose Earthquakes, exactly. And it's just not what you would expect from the Philly Union at all. I mean, I remember as recently as when Seattle played there talking about how they never lose at Subaru Park and they have this crazy goal differential when they're playing at home there. And yeah, I don't know. Jim C seems like he has like Peter Vermees tier job security. And I also think that he has shown to be a really good coach. And he also just seems like an awesome guy. Like I really like Jim C.
They've given him nothing to work with.
And that's the thing. I think we talked about this when they were in the loser section last week, but they, the Moneyball thing, like, and did you see, Kai Wagner's interview where he was basically outwardly saying like this run of results shows that ownership needs to invest more in the team. And that's always it's always kind of funny when you hear a player say something like that, because on one hand, I think everybody's first reaction is to be like, hell yeah, like stick it to ownership. Thanks for speaking for the fans. But also like what he is saying is that like my teammates aren't good enough and I need better teammates for the team to succeed. That's not what he is outwardly saying, but that's what's implied when you say ownership is not investing enough money in the team. Cal Raleigh did this last year, remember?
Yeah.
And he got like chewed out by the Mariners because they were like, Cal, you're basically saying that like your boys who you're teammates with aren't good enough. So like be careful when you say stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a similar situation. And that was a blazing hot interview though. I recommend anyone who hasn't listened to the Kai Wagner clip, go check that one out.
Yeah, there was sell the team chants during the game too. Like no one is happy with this Philadelphia
There was sell
Union.
the team at the Philly Union?
Yeah. There was.
Oh, wow.
I linked the tweet in our document. You'll have to watch it after the show.
I didn't even know
good.
that. Wow. That's a good tidbit.
Yeah. Like this is crazy. This is hitting athletics level.
Sell
the team. Yeah. I do have one more loser to add on here. If you'll indulge me.
No, go for it.
The San Jose Earthquakes 6-2 loss to LAFC at BMO Stadium. Ari, is this team ever going to win? Are they just a joke?
I mean,
also, Kai Kamara now past Landon Donovan or whatever.
The San Jose Earthquakes beat the Seattle Sounders. But it's, I mean, it's the numbers with the Quakes right now are, I mean, it's pretty crazy how poorly it's going.
Minus 22 GD is crazy.
0.58 points per game.
Oh my God.
Hard to do. 3-14-2 record, 14 L's.
Oof.
51 goals conceded, and like you said, a minus 22 GD. And yet, they actually still have a better home record than the Philly Union did. That's crazy. But they're 1-8-1 on the road, 2-6-1 at home. Yeah, I mean, I think the Quakes are pretty comfortably the worst team in the league right now because New England has course corrected a little bit. It's between San Jose and Sporting Kansas City, the club of professional wrestling enthusiasts. That was all I had for episode 45, so I think we can call it right there. Thank you so much to everyone that has tuned in and has supported us, especially since our new partnership with the fine people over at Sounder at Heart who now present this podcast. We really appreciate everyone who tunes in every single week. I mean, we've seen since the Sounder at Heart partnership went live, we've seen a pretty pronounced uptick in our listenership. So we appreciate all the new listeners who are tuning in. You can always hit us up on Twitter if you have questions or stuff that you want to talk about on the show. Our handles will be in the description.
Rate
5 stars.
Yeah, YouTube.
Sub to the YouTube. Sub to the Instagram too.
Oh yeah, follow the
Instagram.
TikTok too. There's TikTok.
Yeah. Tell your friends. Tell everybody that you know to tune in.
Agyameng.
Patrick. Tell Patrick.
Tell Patrick.
And
Big Pat.
Until next time, we out.
Peace.